Superstars. The Sacramento County Coroner's Office today released its final report on Cleveland Browns defensive back Don Rogers. It confirms the preliminary autopsy findings that he died from an overdose of cocaine. The medical examiners also found that Rogers had a healthy heart, and there were no signs of long-term drug use. A grand jury in Maryland began its investigation today into the cocaine death of basketball star Len Bias. They will hear testimony from 75 witnesses and will try to determine who gave the cocaine to Bias. The district attorney says he has evidence that a former University of Maryland student supplied Bias with the drug. He has been identified as Brian Tribble. If indicted, he could face charges ranging from manslaughter to drug offenses. Len Bias and Don Rogers died under similar circumstances.
But the investigations into their deaths have gone in opposite directions. Prosecutors in Maryland have been working around the clock. They claim that they have enough evidence now to reach an indictment in the Bias case. In Sacramento, the Rogers investigation has fizzled. Police say there simply is not enough evidence to charge anyone in his death. Dave Bryan has been investigating the investigators. He's here now with his special report. Dave?
Len Bias and Don Rogers died within 8 days of one another. Both men had been celebrating with friends the night before they died. Bias had just been drafted by the Boston Celtics, and Rogers was getting married. After both deaths, police promised to go after whoever was responsible for supplying them with the fatal drugs. But that is where the similarity ends. On the very day Len Bias died, police converged instantly, picking through trash in a dumpster behind his dormitory, where they found paraphernalia and possible drugs. Sealing off the room where Bias overdosed, and impounding and searching his car, turning up specks of what police believe is crack cocaine in the carpeting, and pressing up to 15 investigators into duty.
In this case, we've interviewed literally hundreds of people, both on the campus and off campus, in an attempt to reconstruct the last few hours of Len Bias's life.
Finally, the decision was made to bring the case before a county grand jury in an effort to compel Bias's friends, who so far have stonewalled police, to testify about his death. The key, according to investigators, was moving in right away.
We want to move in immediately before the trail gets cold to find out, one, where the drugs may have been purchased, how they came to be ingested by the victim, who he was with. Those kinds of things have to be answered, and the time is of the most importance, and you got to do it quickly.
But that apparently is exactly what did not happen in Sacramento, where police and the district attorney have refused to answer questions about Don Rogers' death since this news conference on June 30th. 3 days after Rogers died, the assistant police chief admitted investigators had still neither talked to anyone who attended the bachelor party the night before his death, nor even inspected the hotel room where the party took place for evidence.
I don't believe our investigators have talked to anyone yet. We talked to a few family members. They've asked us to hold off until after the funeral because of all of the things that happened to the family.
Have the police looked at the hotel room?
No.
At that time, reporters pressed the police about why more had not been done sooner.
Well, why didn't you jump into the investigation?
We normally will not be notified of a drug overdose death until we receive the coroner's report. Our first notification came when the family called us because there was so much media at the house and they wanted us to help deal with that.
11 days later, Sacramento police announced the Don Rogers investigation was over.
The result of the investigation has not revealed any hard evidence which would lead to the identification of the individual or individuals who provided the cocaine to Mr. Rogers.
But Eyewitness News has learned that even then, Sacramento police had still not questioned everyone who attended the bachelor party. Police, though, do have their defenders, like Stanford Law School criminologist John Kaplan.
There are many areas of higher priority than somebody dying of a drug which he voluntarily takes with at least some knowledge of the risks.
And even in Maryland, the aggressiveness of authorities in the Len Bias case has not been without controversy.
Well, we've received several calls from families whose kids died in the same fashion, and their complaint is that, why didn't we put forth the amount of manpower on their son or daughter's case that we've done on the Bias case?
I think somebody said, well, if you can kill Len Bias, you can kill anybody.
But Prince George's County, Maryland prosecutor Arthur Marshall, the man who's spearheading the grand jury inquiry, argues that it would be unconscionable to simply walk away from the Len Bias case.
I don't think we could have said we don't have any answers. He's just another youngster who did something he shouldn't do, and you go on back home and forget about it. I just don't think we could have done that. I think that probably you and the public are entitled to some type of response, some type of answer, and under these circumstances, we hope to give it to you.
In the end, results will speak louder than words. In the next few weeks, investigators in Sacramento will be keeping a close eye on the grand jury proceedings in Maryland. They'll want to see if their colleagues there can produce anything more tangible than news headlines. Dave?
Digging beyond the headlines and under the surface, did you find some underlying forces at work that might make some sort of an explanation about such a big difference in the two approaches?
Well, there are a few. First of all, Bias, although he was drafted by the Celtics, was still considered a college student, and college students are more vulnerable. Rodgers, although only 23, was already a professional football player and considered an adult. Plus, Bias played in Maryland, and that brought a lot more public pressure on authorities there to take action, whereas Rodgers played in Cleveland. The final element might be that the state's attorney in Prince George's County is running for re-election.
So public pressure can bring big results.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, David.